Did you know that one of the oldest house shapes in human history is right now being quietly adopted by thousands of modern families across America and beyond? And it's letting them walk away from power companies, mortgage stress, and sky-high utility bills for good? We're not talking about a yurt. We're not talking about a container home. We're talking about something that looks completely normal from the outside, blends right into any rural landscape, but operates like nothing you've seen before. I'm talking about the off-grid U-shaped home. And by the time this video is done, you're going to understand exactly why smart families are choosing this layout above every other design on the market right now in 2026. Real quick before we go any further, if you're genuinely exploring off-grid living or alternative housing, subscribe and hit that bell right now. I post honest, research-backed content on this stuff every single week. No hype, no fluff, just real information you can actually use. And stay until the end of this video because I'm going to break down the actual cost numbers, the real energy savings, and the one design mistake people make with U-shaped homes that completely kills their off-grid efficiency. You do not want to miss that. Let's start with the problem, because to understand why the U-shape is gaining so much traction in 2026, you first need to understand what it's replacing. The average American household pays around $154 per month on electricity alone. That's based on 2025 EIA data tracking 881 kilowatt hours of consumption at about 17.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Now add your mortgage or rent, your water bill, your gas if you're in a colder state. And most families are pouring thousands of dollars a month into a home they don't actually control. And here's where it gets worse in 2026 specifically. We're not just dealing with rate increases anymore. Many states are now implementing what's called peak demand pricing, sometimes called congestion pricing, where your electricity rate can literally triple between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. because the grid cannot handle the load for electric vehicles and industrial demand hitting at the same time. In 2026, you're not just paying for power. You're paying surge fees because a grid that was never designed for this level of electrification is struggling to keep up. The U-shape lets you opt out of that entirely. Electricity rates have been climbing at roughly 3 to 5% per year over the last decade, and the U.S. grid is estimated to require $1.4 trillion in upgrades between 2025 and 2030. Those upgrades get passed directly onto your monthly bill. And then there's the design of traditional homes themselves. A standard rectangular box loses energy in predictable ways. No natural airflow strategy. No passive solar design. Rooms that bake in summer and freeze in winter unless your HVAC system is running nonstop. So when people started seriously exploring off-grid living, and this is not a fringe movement anymore, the International Energy Agency reported that off-grid solar installations grew 32% globally in 2025. The question they kept asking was, what house shape actually works with nature instead of against it? And again, the answer they landed on was the U-shape. Let's define what we're talking about, because I want to be precise here. A U-shaped home, sometimes called a horseshoe or courtyard home, is a house built in the shape of the letter U. 3 connected wings wrap around a central open-air space. That open space in the middle is the courtyard, and it becomes the heart of everything. Now, this isn't a new idea. Ancient Chinese courtyard homes used south-facing rooms and overhanging roofs to manage solar gain for centuries. Roman architects oriented structures southward and used glazed windows to capture winter sunlight. Pueblo communities in the American Southwest built thick-walled adobe U-shapes that stayed cool in summer and warm in winter without a single mechanical system. Modern architects rediscovered this and realized something fascinating. When you combine U-shaped geometry with today's solar technology, water harvesting systems, and smart passive design, you get a home that is radically self-sufficient in ways that a rectangle simply cannot match. Here's what a typical U-shaped off-grid home layout looks like. Wing 1 on the left, private bedrooms and bathrooms. Wing 2 on the right, a home office, workshop, or utility room. The connecting middle section, your main living area, kitchen, and dining room, all of which open directly onto the courtyard through floor-to-ceiling glass doors. The courtyard itself becomes your outdoor living room, your garden, your food growing space, and a critical piece of your passive solar strategy. This is where it gets really interesting, and this is what separates the U-shape from every other alternative housing layout. Let me walk you through the energy logic. Passive solar design. In passive solar architecture, the goal is simple. Let sunlight in when you need warmth and block it when you don't. The U.S. Department of Energy's guidelines say a home should have south-facing windows that equal about 5 to 10% of the home's total floor area. The U-shaped layout is almost perfectly designed for this. You orient the open side of the U toward the south. Every room in all 3 wings now has direct visual access to the sunlit courtyard. You place thermal mass materials, concrete slab floors, brick walls, stone tile, inside the courtyard-facing rooms. During the day, that thermal mass absorbs heat. At night, it releases it slowly back into your living spaces. Passive solar homes built to proper standards can reduce heating energy needs by 25 to 90% compared to conventional construction, depending on climate and design quality. That's not marketing language. That comes from peer-reviewed building science. Cross-ventilation and thermal stratification. The courtyard creates something no rectangular home can, a natural chimney effect. And here's the technical term you'll want to know if you talk to an architect about this. Thermal stratification. Warm air rises through the open center of the courtyard and exits from the top of the U. Cooler, denser air is drawn in through the wings at ground level. What this means in practice is that the home naturally self-regulates temperature through air movement without a fan or mechanical system running. The house designers, an architectural firm specializing in courtyard plans, notes that a courtyard promotes cross-ventilation throughout the entire structure in a way that a closed floor plan simply cannot replicate. A 2025 scientific study published in Scientific Reports. They ran nearly 29,000 parametric simulations on courtyard homes across 5 different climate types, found that correctly designed courtyards with proper insulation and window placement can reduce cooling demand to under 75 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. To put that in plain language, your air conditioning load drops dramatically, which means a smaller solar system can power your home. Solar panel placement. Here's another advantage the U-shape offers that people don't talk about enough. Roof area. 3 connected wings means significantly more usable roof surface than a single rectangular footprint of equivalent floor area. And because you're designing from scratch, you can orient each roof plane for maximum solar yield. One real-world example. A U-shaped home in Melbourne, Australia achieved an 8.3-star energy efficiency rating under their national system, which requires a 7-star minimum. The architects credited the U-shaped floor plan and carefully placed double-glazed windows as the primary reason. The home also ran a 10.56 kilowatt solar system with battery storage. Rainwater harvesting. 3 roof sections also means 3 collection points for rainwater. A 4,000-liter rainwater tank connected to the home's washing machines, toilets, and garden irrigation can dramatically reduce municipal water dependence. For families on rural land, this is the difference between being water independent and hauling water. I want to talk about money here, because I know that's what you're actually wondering about. Let me give you honest numbers based on 2026 data, and I want to clear up one big misconception right at the start of this section. The federal tax credit, clearing up the confusion. A lot of people have heard that solar incentives are disappearing. I need to set the record straight. The 30% federal residential clean energy credit, that's the main solar tax credit, is still fully active in 2026 under the Inflation Reduction Act. It stays at 30% straight through to 2032. It does not begin to step down until 2033. This matters enormously for your math. If you're building an off-grid U-shaped home in 2026 and you install a solar and battery system, 30% of that cost comes back to you at tax time. On a $50,000 system, that's $15,000 back. That credit is currently locked in, but it won't be forever. The window to capture the full 30% is open now. Building costs. Passive solar U-shaped homes built to good off-grid standards in 2026 typically run between $165 and $210 per square foot. Labor inflation and the cost of high-efficiency glazing, the double and triple pane windows you need for proper passive solar performance, have pushed that number up compared to a few years ago. A 1,500 square foot family U-shaped home would cost roughly $247,500 to $315,000 to build in 2026 before land. That range can shift significantly based on your region, your build method, and your material choices. Now compare that to buying a traditional suburban home. The national median home price as of Q1 2026 sits at $445,000 or above in most markets, and you're then paying a utility company indefinitely on top of that purchase price. Solar system costs. Panel prices actually dropped sharply in late 2025 due to global oversupply, and that's carrying into 2026. The current average cost for a solar installation in the US is $2.10 to $2.80 per watt depending on your state, down from where it was a couple of years ago. For a typical 10 kilowatt system, you're looking at $21,000 to $28,000 before the 30% federal credit. After that credit, your out-of-pocket drops to roughly $14,700 to $19,600. Several states also carry additional active programs on top of the federal credit. Massachusetts has SMART. New York has New York Sun. New Jersey has Trex and Strex. California has SGIP for battery storage. Check DesireUSA.org for what's available in your specific state. Because a well-designed U-shaped passive solar home needs roughly 40% less energy than a conventional home of the same size, you can often get away with a smaller solar system. A smaller system means lower upfront cost, and combined with the 30% credit, your break-even point on the energy system is closer to 6 years rather than the 10 to 12 years people assume. Battery storage in 2026. Leaf APO4, lithium iron phosphate, has been the standard for off-grid battery storage and remains an excellent choice for long lifespan and safety. But in 2026, there is a new option worth knowing about: sodium-ion batteries. Sodium-ion is emerging as a lower-cost alternative for budget-conscious builds. It uses more abundant materials, which keeps the price point accessible, and it performs well in cold temperatures where lithium chemistry can struggle. The trade-off is slightly lower energy density, meaning you need a bit more physical space for the same storage capacity. For a U-shaped home with dedicated utility space in one wing, that's often not a problem. The OFF grid advantage in 2026. One important shift happening right now: utility companies are increasingly moving away from one net metering. California's NEM 3.0 already cuts solar export credits by roughly 75%. More states are likely to follow that model. What this means for off-grid U-shaped home builders is actually good news. If you're not connected to the grid at all, none of those policy changes touch you. You generate, you store, you use. Full stop. The strategy has shifted from selling to the grid to owning the grid. For rural builds especially, this math is obvious. If your land is half a mile from the nearest power line, utilities can quote you $30,000 to $50,000 just to trench new lines to your property. Take that money and put it directly into your solar and battery system instead. Let me step away from the numbers for a second and talk about why families specifically are gravitating toward this layout. The U-shape does something no other floor plan does. It creates a private outdoor space that you can see from nearly every room in the house. For families with kids, this is enormous. Parents in the kitchen can watch children playing in the courtyard. The bedroom wing is separated from the living areas, which means quieter sleep. Guests or extended family can use one wing independently without sharing hallways. One architect who worked with a family on a U-shaped courtyard renovation described it this way: 3 children gained a visible, safe outdoor play zone through sliding glass walls, and dinner parties naturally spilled outside. The courtyard also becomes your food growing space. Raised garden beds, fruit trees, and herb gardens tucked into a sheltered microclimate that gets sunlight from 3 sides. The walls of the U act as natural wind barriers, so you can grow things in a U-shaped courtyard that you simply could not grow in an exposed garden. For families interested in long-term self-sufficiency, growing a portion of your own food, managing your own water, generating your own power, the U-shaped home essentially becomes the physical infrastructure for that lifestyle. It's not just a house, it's a system. The 2026 trend data backs this up. According to the 2025 Green Building Report, 78% of alternative housing buyers in North America now specifically seek eco-certified builds, up from just 45% in 2020. The demographic has expanded well beyond young millennials. Retirees looking to eliminate fixed costs, remote workers with location freedom, and young families priced out of conventional suburban markets are all converging on this space. Okay, I promised you I'd cover the one design mistake people make with U-shaped off-grid homes, and here it is. It's actually two related mistakes, and they happen at the same step in the design process. The first one, people get excited about the U-shape and forget to orient it correctly. The open side of the U, the mouth of the courtyard, must face south in the northern hemisphere. If you orient your U-shape facing north, west, or east, you lose the passive solar benefit almost entirely. Your courtyard becomes shaded for large portions of the day. Your thermal mass absorbs cold instead of heat. Your thermal stratification and cross-ventilation strategy works against you instead of for you. The Department of Energy is specific on this. South-facing glass should not be shaded between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. during the heating season. Proper roof overhangs on the south side should block the high summer sun while allowing the low winter sun to reach deep into your living spaces. A real-world example of this done right. The Melbourne, Australia U-shaped home we mentioned earlier oriented its courtyard toward the north, the equivalent of south in the southern hemisphere, to bring natural light and warmth into the center of the home in winter. A pergola on one side provided summer shade. The result was that 8.3-star energy efficiency rating, well above the 7-star code minimum. The second part of this mistake, and this is a hot topic in 2026 building circles, thermal bridging at the corners of the U. Because the U-shape has two interior corners where the wings meet the central section, those corners are structurally complex and are common locations for heat to escape. In building science, this is called thermal bridging, where a conductive material like a wood stud or a metal connector creates a path for heat to leak straight through your insulated envelope. The fix is continuous exterior insulation. You wrap the outside of the entire structure, including those corners, in a layer of rigid foam or mineral wool that eliminates the thermal bridge entirely. Another technique your framer should know is called a California corner. Instead of stacking 3 studs at each corner the conventional way, a California corner uses 2 studs and a flat backer that allows insulation to fill the corner cavity from inside. These two approaches together keep the heat where it belongs. Get the orientation right. Address the corner thermal bridges. Do those two things, and the U-shaped home does much of the heating and cooling work for you passively before you have even turned on a solar panel. We've talked about energy. Let's talk about water, because off-grid living requires solving both. The 3-wing roof structure of a U-shaped home creates excellent rainwater harvesting potential. Modern ceramic and UV-based water filtration systems can now purify hundreds of gallons per day and are compact enough to fit in utility room. Gravity-fed systems like the Berkey remain popular, but newer UV-based units require less maintenance and offer stronger protection against bacteria, viruses, and microplastics. Composting toilets in 2026 are a genuinely different product than what most people picture. Modern units are odor-free, require minimal maintenance, and produce usable compost. Combined with a gray water recycling system for shower and sink water, a well-designed U-shaped home can reduce municipal water consumption by 70% or more. For families on rural land with a well or access to a stream, water independence is almost entirely achievable. For suburban or semi-rural sites, a hybrid approach, rainwater for garden and toilet flushing, filtered well, or municipal water for drinking, is often the practical middle ground. If you're seriously considering this, here's how to think about the planning process. Step 1. Start with your site. The U-shape is driven by its location. You need an unobstructed view of the south, or as close to south as your lot allows. Identify any existing trees or structures that might shade your courtyard between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. in winter. This is your make-or-break assessment before you spend $1 on design. Step 2. Determine your climate zone. The ratio of south-facing glass to floor area, the thickness of your thermal mass, and the depth of your roof overhangs all depend on your specific climate. A home in Phoenix, Arizona, and a home in Vermont both use U-shaped passive solar design, but they are calibrated very differently. Step 3. Size your energy system before you finalize the floor plan. Your solar array, battery bank, and energy load should be calculated based on how many people will live there and what your actual usage is. A well-insulated, passive solar U-shaped home of 1,500 square feet for a family of 4 might need as little as 6 to 8 kilowatts of solar capacity to run fully off-grid, significantly less than a conventional home of the same size. That smaller system also costs less and qualifies for a smaller but faster returning 30% tax credit. Step 4. Choose your build method. Prefab and modular construction is increasingly viable for U-shaped floor plans and offers significant cost control and faster timelines. Insulated concrete form construction, ICF, is an excellent choice for thermal mass and insulation performance simultaneously. SIPs, structural insulated panels, are another strong option for airtightness. Step 5. Check your local zoning and permitting requirements early. Off-grid systems, composting toilets, rainwater collection, solar arrays, are regulated differently by state and county. Some states have very permissive codes for rural land. Others require specific inspections and certifications. Do this before design, not after. Look, I want to be real with you. Building an off-grid U-shaped home is not a weekend project, and it is not cheap up front. The initial investment is significant. The planning requires serious thought, and no design, no matter how well conceived, solves every challenge of off-grid living. But what I can tell you is this. The U-shape is one of the most energy-intelligent layouts you can choose for self-sufficient living. It works with sunlight, with airflow, with family privacy, with food growing, and with water collection in ways that a rectangular box fundamentally cannot match. And families who do it right are walking away from utility companies, from surge pricing, from energy insecurity, and from the endless cycle of mortgage and rent stress that defines conventional housing in 2026. The 30% federal tax credit is still on the table. Panel prices are down, and the design principles are proven across centuries of human building. The timing for this actually makes sense right now. If this video gave you something to think about, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are exploring these ideas. Drop your questions in the comments below. I read all of them, and I answer as many as I can. And if you want to go deeper, I have got videos on solar system sizing for small homes, rainwater harvesting setups, and the real permit process for off-grid builds. Links are in the description. I'll see you in the next one.